This is Van Electric Ghost, and we're live on the air with Terry L. Fossum for the first time. Welcome to the Fan Electric Ghost podcast. How you doing tonight?
Phantom, I'm doing amazing. Thanks so much for having me. And before we even get into it, I want to thank you for what you're doing because your main goal, and we chatted a little bit before we started recording, is to help your audience. You want to take care of them. That's not what everybody does. So thank you for what you're doing to actually make a difference in the world. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I want to give people a little bit of background for you. You're a survival reality show winner,
Yeah.
#1 Wall Street Journal, Amazon, Barnes and Noble bestselling author, and a TEDxTalk. Debuted at like #2 in the world,
Yeah.
and you're recognized as one of the top 30 TEDx talks that made an impact this century. So that's a line. You're a keynote speaker. I'll skip that. But you give to charity.
Yeah.
So I want to just give that little background so people know who you are. But like I'm very thankful that you chose to show up today. We do live shows, which some people either dig or don't. But you have a book out called award-winning book called The Simple Guide to Public Speaking Without Losing Your Lunch, and we're going to
Yeah.
talk about that in your story. I think that's really cool. But again, before we get to the heart of your story, I always ask a couple questions, and the first one always is, what motivates you?
My mission in life, from probably when I was in high school, was to help as many people as I can before I die. And that's what keeps me motivated. It's just central to who I am, and that's what gets me up in the morning and makes me go to bed at night feeling really, really good about what happened today.
And that kind of segs into also like why you do what you do. Um, is the other kind of follow up.
Yeah, well, so there's so many reasons, but here's the deal, and why I'm doing my current project is, I've been very, very blessed, as you've mentioned, in the speaking world, and they pay me a lot of money per hour to speak, $20,000 an hour to speak, and I've helped raise millions and millions and millions for charities around the country from the stage, and I know the difference that being on the stage can make. Not just for the person, all those things were for me or the organizations I was helping, but for the people in the audience, even more importantly. But the question is, how do you get there? There's so many people with so many great ideas, and the way I was is I had these great ideas. I had a million great ideas. That's part of the problem, and I
Mhm.
was trying and trying and trying, and I just couldn't get the traction. And I was seeing people that I didn't believe had as good of ideas as I did, and they were getting the stages,
Mhm.
and it drove me insane. And finally, when I was able to get those things and be very blessed on them, now I said, okay, now I want to help me. I want to help the little guy. I mean, the person I was who's
Mhm.
spinning their wheels, wondering why they can't get that traction, and just need help. And that's what's motivating me to be doing what I'm doing right now.
Yeah, I think that's like always the core problem. Like I always talk to creative people, and the big problem is, we have a lot of ideas,
Yeah.
right? Sometimes you get a little nervous about sharing them because you worry about the haters.
Hmm.
You're like the painter with all the stuff sitting in your loft and nothing's in the gallery.
Hmm.
The musician's got 1,000 demos and nothing's on the top on Spotify. So you have to learn how to sell yourself.
Yeah.
And sometimes creatives or business people is like they're good at trying to build that idea, that vision, that service, that product, but they might not be the best person for SEO, best person for A&R, best person for marketing. And how can they actually beef up that? You know?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And I can tell you, and especially in today's era, as of this recording, there is nothing like being the expert on the stage. Nothing else works like that. In the music world, if you really want to sell your music, you go on tour
Yes.
because that's what happened, right? It's the audience there. Then they buy your CDs, they buy your downloads, etc., because they've seen you on stage, they can relate to you. It's the same thing with business people. If you want your message to get out there, it's not going to be SEO, it's not going to be AI, it's not going to be posting endless content and hoping for likes and followers. It's
Mhm.
getting on the stages. That's how you sell yourself, your programs, your books, everything else.
Yeah, because that's where like with musicians, like, are you looking for the A&R manager or you want a booking manager?
Right,
If
right.
I could get a booking manager to get me to New York,
Yeah,
get me to LA, get me to Nashville,
yeah,
right? if you get me in there, then I can do it, right? You guys like,
Yeah,
so I'd rather do that than spend all this money on the SEO and the TikToks and all that stuff. That's nice, but some of that's vaporware.
absolutely.
Are those real people? Like, if you can build the word of mouth,
Yeah.
like the Grateful Dead, they built a core audience that would follow them everywhere. They would
And
just
know what
follow
you
them across the country forever with decades.
right, right. And notice what you said, would follow them everywhere, would go to see them live on stage. Same thing with business, everybody. Same thing with business. That's where they're going to follow you. That's where they're going to fall in love with you, relate to you, and quite frankly, that's where they're going to buy from you, whatever that means for you. If it's a coaching program, if it's working with their board of directors, if it's working with them personally, whatever it is, that's with buying your books. That's where they're going to do it right there. That's why we work on getting people on those stages.
And then learning how to kind of read the room. Because you can have like that teleprompter, you can do all this prep, but if you're just gonna read off the teleprompter and
Yeah,
you can't feel the audience
yeah,
and you can't make them feel it's not a canned pitch, that you actually are living your pitch.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, right?
Well, no, it's absolutely true. And teleprompter means that you're leaving no flexibility, and certainly no relatability. Part of, and of course, during with my program, we take you through all of that, how to win the audience the second you get up on stage, so they don't check their email on their phone, uh, but rather they really are going, man, I can't wait to hear this. But then all the way through relating to them, so they're going, man, that's fantastic. That's me. That's my problem. Oh, there's my solution. But most importantly, when you're designing these things, they're also going, I want to hear more. I
Yeah,
want to.
you wanna suck them in. It's
That,
like when you're a film director or a writer, right? You want somebody to stay in the book. You
yeah,
want somebody to stay in the movie.
yeah.
Right? So you've gotta get that hook to keep them in.
And you want them to, they can't wait for the next book. They can't wait for the next movie.
Yeah.
They can't wait to get the merch, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. If everything's designed wisely, it always leads to the next step, always leads to the next step. And that's what you want to do if you really want to get those results, whether it's for the people you're talking to or for yourself.
So, like, one thing about story, so you say some people make a mistake, when they lead with their story, not their message. Can you elaborate?
Yeah, absolutely. The audience immediately needs to know what's in it for me. Why should I listen? Too many times people will get up there because they think it's all about their story and they write a book because they've got a great story. Guess what? Nobody cares until they can relate to it, until they go, wow, I see myself in that story. If they do that, you own them. Then you've
Mhm.
got them. But if they can't see themselves in your story, you're just blabbering. You're telling all about yourself. And guess what? Nobody cares. They care about themselves. So the thing you do is you craft that story, your story, to where they see themselves in it, where they can relate to it. Then it's the single most powerful thing you could possibly do.
Yeah, that's like the core thing when you're a musician is like you have to get to what we call like a universal key
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
that. So when we were talking about universal key, is like we can follow that frequency, right? That's going to get everybody so into it
Yeah.
that you're going to keep them in it, right? So it's like
Yeah.
that's why we always look for these hooks. We look for, the thing that's gonna make you stay in the song, that makes you go back and repeat that melody, that makes you go and pick your lighter out or your cell phone out and
Yeah.
do the lighting, and you're all tied to the same thing because we actually, learned how to pitch our frequencies
Hmm.
to make you react.
Well, sure, sure. And the thing we all know about music is that music creates emotion. That's what music creates within us if we've done it right. It creates emotion, whatever that emotion might be. Guess what? Same thing with great stories. Stories create emotion. And here's something for everybody to write down, especially the business people. Emotion, not fact, is the driver of all action. I'll say it again. Emotion, not fact, is the driver of all action. You can tell people all the facts in the world in your talk, in your speech, whatever it is, and they're not going to do anything. They don't care
Yeah.
until you make them care, until you create that emotion within them.
Yeah, all the metrics are for the actuaries.
Hmm. Nice, nice. Yeah,
Yeah, well, they
absolutely.
you can impress them actuaries, you might impress the lawyer
Right,
because they
right.
like to use that, the logic. Games is a 'cause I'm in IT and, like, everything's like logic, right? 'Cause everything's
Hmm.
like algorithms.
Hmm.
We get so hung up on our algorithms, it's like, does that algorithm make somebody feel something,
Right, right.
right? If it makes somebody feel something, that's cool.
Yeah,
But if it just makes the actuaries happy,
yeah.
I'm not so excited about that.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And neither is your audience, and that's the important. Neither is your reader of your book, etc. And that's a very big thing. A lot of people mess up on as well. You've got to make them care. You've got to make them feel and feel that they want to take action.
Yeah, because like, how do you kind of prep? Like, writers have beta readers.
Hmm.
Musicians, we have kind of beta areas where you can send stuff like SoundCloud and Mixcloud. We have places we can send to and try things out and then say, hey, we're getting people like this. So
Yeah.
then we can plan to push it out further. How do you kind of test that?
Absolutely. Well, and part of my program is we work it together. We take in all of my experience, which I'm very blessed with. All of AI, I've written and trained some very, very, very powerful AIs. We develop all that out based on the best psychology for getting people to take action. And then to begin with, let's start it on the smaller stages. There's a million stages that would love to have you talk for free or $500 or whatever. And for those that poo-poo that, just think the greatest comedians, the Jay
Yeah,
Leno's, et
yeah.
cetera.
Start the small clubs.
They go back to the small clubs. They try out their stuff. We do the same thing. If I'm going to give a new speech, even though normally I get paid all right to do things, I'm going to go test it out on the local chamber of commerce or something, and
uh
we teach people how to be able to do that.
So you find a more accessible. So you don't try to shoot for them. I think this is where people go from 0 to 100. Like they want to go 0 to 100, and everybody knows that like it took like 90 demos before the song hit the radio, right? But
Well,
nobody
absolutely.
maybe knows that work, but except that maybe you do. But
Well, and you said demos, and that's also part of what you're creating. Because if you're going to go for the big stages, they need to see you in action. They need to see your demo reel. We call it a speaker reel, right?
Mhm.
So when you're doing those smaller ones, you get filmed, and we teach you how to do that so it gets the best impact.
Film is good, yeah.
Film is everything. We get the audience when they're leaving, we get them to give you testimony. He was the best thing that ever existed, all that sort, but that goes on your demo reel, your speaker reel, and then that's what these people want to see, these event coordinators, so they can see
Oh,
you in
so you were
action.
able to kind of pitch what the A&R people used to pitch.
Absolutely.
They used to pitch like that single to
Yeah.
the DJs and the disc jockeys.
Yeah.
And it
Yeah.
might have a promotional package. It says like all this stuff. It might have somebody from Rolling Stone said this is the best thing since sliced bread. You know,
Yep.
so you get those critical people like or even like to kind of say it's good, even if it's like the Village Voice or someone say, hey, this is good.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And that all goes on what's called your one sheet, which again has to be very specifically designed. And that goes out with your speaker reel. And that's what these people look at primarily.
Mhm.
Next, they're going to go to your website that also has to be specifically designed. I see all these, hundreds of thousands of speaker wannabes, which I was, so I'm not putting them down, that don't really know what they're doing. They're trying to send this stuff out to managers or event coordinators, et cetera, and they're doing nothing but hurting their reputation
Mhm.
because they're blowing it. First impressions, they see that and go, oh, no, they're not for me. So you try to pitch them again, and oh no, I've already seen that person. Done, over.
Mhm.
It's so critical you get it right, just like in music demos.
Yeah, you really have to get the right A&R team, kind of like you seem like the A&R team. Because like if you don't do it right, like you say, you lose the credibility, you lose interest. Because if
Yeah,
they think it's like, well, this guy is always going around and he's starting to bug me.
yeah, yeah,
It's like nobody's gonna get excited by the guy that's bugging everybody.
yeah.
Um,
And these agents get bugged, and these speaker venues and they get bugged by literally hundreds of people a day, a
Yeah.
day. So you got one shot. You better make it good.
So you're really doing that prep work to really give somebody
Yeah.
their best presentation. It's like what a producer does, right? You get a
Yes.
new band and they give you the demo and you do everything you can so you present it to the label.
Yes.
And it's not the demo. The demo made you excited as the engineer or
Hmm.
as the producer, but you knew it wasn't ready to present.
Right.
So you're actually go through and you do all that engineering. You tell them, hey, change the voicing on this. You do this, do that. You be the George Martin to the four lads, and you fix it. And then
Yeah.
that's how
And
it comes out.
right. And we train them to be able to do it themselves.
Mhm.
That's part of it also. There's a lot of good training involved, along with, if you're part of what I call my VIP program, you are working directly with me. But there's also a lot of training because I don't want you to be just dependent on me.
Yeah, you want to end up being like Paul McCartney, so then he goes to Wings, and
Yeah.
he can do it. Now he can do
Yeah.
what George told him.
Yeah.
He can actually replicate what George showed him how to do in the Beatles.
That's exactly right. You got that down perfectly. That's exactly right. Yeah.
It's a good example.
Yeah. Yeah, it really was.
But, yeah, it's like it seems like a lot of times authors, I think authors are so in their space. Because
Yeah.
remember, an author has to spend so much time by themselves
Yeah.
or spend their time observing people and people not really interacting because they're observing, right?
Hmm.
And so then when they have to go and interact as a speaker, that's kind of foreign because you're so much time in your head, so much time in your space. How do you transition to that? You know?
Well, and that's where the concepts in the book, The Simple Guide to Public Speaking, without losing your lunch.
Yeah.
Because there is a lot of psychology involved in that. To begin with, writing that book, again, so it'll actually transform. You're not just there to tell a story, you're there to transform the reader and make them want to hire you. Man, that person's got to speak at our event. They've got to speak, right? But then, okay, now it is taking that author, because you're exactly correct. And again, I've written a couple of books all by myself for hours and hours and hours and hours here in my office. And then, okay, let's take that on the road. That's a whole different world and a whole different mindset. You're completely correct. That's part of what we have to teach them how to do with power.
Yeah, because sometimes the personality trait is that you might not be a people person.
Hmm.
You might not be the kind of person that has that stage self. They can get on and have that, Jagger swagger, right?
Well,
Maybe you
well,
don't have that.
well, here's the beautiful thing about that. First of all, I'm an introvert. I go out by myself in the wilderness all around the world. People think that's because you're an adventurer. No, it's because I'm an introvert. I have to do that. So I am not an extrovert. And a lot of people think also, well, I've got to be a great speaker and I've got to have all this energy. And no, 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 no. You've got to be yourself. That's
Mhm.
what people want is authenticity. We just teach you how to be the most powerful, stage-worthy version of yourself. Because not everybody in the crowd wants to hear rah, rah, rah. No, they don't want to hear that. They want to hear you. You are enough.
I would like to maybe give an example of like in jazz fusion, like Davis and Coltrane, all those guys.
Hmm.
It's somewhat structured, but a lot of it is unstructured, right? And so what is magical is like these are all master musicians at 100,000 hours,
Right.
right?
Right.
Muscle memory.
Yeah.
They get together and they can be in the moment and they can read the crowd. They read each other.
Yeah.
So every concert, the piece evolves
Yeah.
every time they present it. So if you could take your public speaking and treat it like jazz, where you don't have to fear about being exact, you feel what is necessary based on wherever you are. You can read the moment, you're living
Hmm.
in the present, and you have this, you've got it. So then there's less pressure for losing your lunch, right?
Yeah. Yes. Yes, it is. But notice how those people did that because they've spent thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of hours doing what they do, perfecting their craft. Now, so it's going to be the same thing for speaker. I don't send a speaker up there, and I certainly don't do it myself just to wing it. A lot of people say, well, I'm just going to
Yeah,
go up
just
there
try
and,
to wing it.
yeah, I'm just going to wing it because it'll be more authentic. No, it'll be terrible. That's what it'll be. Honestly, you're not trying to be authentic, you're trying to be lazy.
Mhm.
But here's your point is if we've got a speaker that knows what they're talking about so well, because we've taught them how to memorize what they're going to talk about. That it doesn't have to be every word because they're not going to remember every word. But you've got it down so well that now you can go out there and you can mess with the audience. You
Mhm.
can look at those people in the front row, which I'll do all the time, and go off script because I can go back to my script like that
Mhm.
and mess with them, or somebody makes a comment and go, you know what? And you can run with just like a
It
jazz
doesn't throw you
musician would
off
do.
because
Yeah,
if you're so into it, things being it's like a perfection trap.
yeah,
And
yes,
this is why I always point the difference between a classical musician and a fusion jazz musician.
right,
Classical musician has to be looking at the conductor, has to be looking at the sheet. If
right.
they get thrown off, it's kind of like the end.
Yeah, yeah,
Fusion musician, somebody changes a chord. Like
yeah.
Herbie Hancock said this one time. He actually hit a note that Miles didn't compose.
Uh huh.
Miles actually adjusted his piece to match Herbie's note without
Wow,
saying anything. He just did it.
wow. Yeah.
And that's the kind of thing that can happen when you are really practiced.
Yeah, yeah. And you're really focused more on the substance than the perfection.
Yeah.
And I kind of mentioned it, but here's another important thing and part of how we craft the speech. When people get so wrapped up in the exact words, guess what? Nobody's going to remember what you said. I'm sorry, but it's true. But they will always remember the way you made them feel. And they'll remember one sentence out of what you said because it's backed up by the story that caused that emotion that caused them to take the action of that one sentence.
So is your goal to make sure you have multiple moments like that or one key moment like that?
You're going to have, usually speaking, three. You're going to start with what's important to them and really drive that home. You're going to get their emotion going right away, whatever that emotion is, and that changes depending on what we're talking about. You're going to give them three main points, all supported by stories that make them feel. You're going to keep, during each one of those points, you're going to repeat your main line because that brings it back to
Mhm.
your main line and shows them how that story supported their main line. And then at the end, you bring it all home, baby, to make sure that transformation has happened and to make them want to take the action in that one line, to repeat it to other people and go, that's why we need to hire him for X.
Yeah, you kind of got it down to like a, song structure, chorus, you know.
Sure. Yeah,
Say if people remember the chorus and that's what you wanted them to remember.
you
And
know,
you want the feeling of that chorus too, the way you invoked it, the way you sang it to get
Phantom, I've never talked to somebody that's so into the music world to make me realize um, how much correlation there is, but you could not be more correct.
yeah,
That's
I try to
absolutely right.
correlate that because I always say that there's a pattern to music, but there's a pattern to your voice,
Yes.
right? So your voice is an instrument. And when
Yes.
you're a public speaker, you are actually using it a lot like a singer.
Yes.
And if you actually think about poetry, you think about music, think about oral tradition, if you get people back into that hook or back into that central point, that is a commonality between poetry, public speaking, and anything you do. And there's so many parallels if you realize your power,
Yeah.
like the space between the words, how you actually enunciate, like where you leave room, where
Yeah.
you don't leave room, where you do emphasis, where you don't do emphasis. These are all things that are musical, but you're doing them when you talk as well, or when you speak. And
You
so
bet
when
you are. I love that, Phantom. I love that. So for all the musicians here going, well, I couldn't be a public speaker. You couldn't be more wrong, as Phantom just showed us. Yeah, that's absolutely true. I love that.
yeah, I think it's real important, like because there's some people they might be more comfortable relating it to something else.
Right.
Because
Right.
if they say, "Wow, I'm so scared about doing this TED talk. I'm
Right.
so scared about going to the Chamber of Commerce. I'm like, what are they going to think about me? They start thinking
Yeah.
about all these things. So they go like, they start dinging themselves right from the start.
Yeah.
Like, I can't do it. I never did it. I'm going to fail.
Yep.
Instead of coming in there saying, I'm just going to kick butt.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I know what you're about to say. And you're right, because we go into a lot of these things, and this is part of what we overcome in my program is we have these fears, fear of being judged, because guess what? You are being judged. Sorry, but it's true. Fear of rejection. But here's the point that I really help try to drive home with everybody. And I want everybody to listen to this. This is very important. It's not about you.
Yes.
It's not about you. Sorry, get over yourself. It's about your subject. If you've got something that you truly believe can help people, then it's not about you. And a couple examples that I love giving is any parent, because some people say, well, I can't speak. I can't speak persuasively. I can't speak with passion. Anybody who has been a parent has spoken with passion,
Yes.
right? You better do that, or you're not going to get dinner, or you better do it, right? How come we can speak with passion then when we don't think we can do it from stage? Well, for one thing, we don't care how that child feels about us at that moment in time. They are going to take the action, right? Mm-hmm. It's not about us. It's about the action that they need to take. And we feel in a position of authority. Well, if you get up on stage, you are automatically in a position of authority. You're viewed as such. And if all that's in your head is, I have something that can help that person on the front row, off to the left a little bit, I got something that can help that person. I know I do. I know I can. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here. Then it's not about you being judged. It's about you helping that person. And that's a whole different mindset going into it.
Yeah, it's definitely kind of like that stage persona where you, like a lot of times, you get a musician or an actor, they're super shy.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
when they get into the role, I mean, a good example, like either Michael Jackson or Prince, if you tried to talk to them,
Yeah.
painful,
Yeah.
very painful trying to talk to them in a normal dialogue. But when they went on stage, their stage persona had so much confidence, you wouldn't even think it's the same person.
Right.
And I've seen tons of musicians that have that same aspect.
Yeah.
If you try to have a conversation, they're very guarded, very introverted, but their stage self is total opposite. You're like, even people tend to think that that stage self is them, and a lot of times it's not.
Yeah, no, it's true. So for anybody here, if you are a musician, I know there's a lot of musicians that listen to your podcast, of course. If you have the wherewithal to get on stage and play your instrument, whatever that instrument might be, yeah, it's the same thing here. You can do that because you feel confident in it. You feel comfortable because you've done it a long time. When you started, you did not feel confident or comfortable. We do the same thing with speakers. We get them to that point where they're ready to get out there if they're willing to put in the work.
It's like an athlete. Like an athlete has to do all those reps. They got to practice. They get the 10,000 plays down.
Mm-hmm.
So when they hit that 3-point shot or hit that play, it's automatic. And it gets to a point where even if it doesn't happen the way they did it in practice, they've learned like a situational awareness is like, I got a bunch of different plays and I'm actually competent enough to know what to do on the fly.
Yeah, absolutely. And those plays could be the stories, the 3 stories we tell. And that's where when people understand, well, wait a minute, I can tell a story. Good. You don't have to worry about memorizing this entire hour-long speech. You know how to tell 3 stories. Let's practice your intro. Let's practice your outro and rock and roll and have a blast in between.
Yeah, it's like when grandpa tells you that story from like 55 and he keeps on, and every year it changes a little bit. It's like, it's okay.
Yeah.
That's what happens.
Yeah. And they're not going to, that audience, first of all, they've never heard that story before in their life. Yeah. And they're not going to remember the details of it. They're going to remember the way it made them feel.
Yeah, it's just like how the actors, like when the actor, you go see a stage play, you can see it 3 nights in a row. And how that actor does some of the key lines every night is going to shift. It shifts. And they have it, but they interpret it based on what they're feeling.
Yeah.
What they're feeling within. So when you start to understand that you can call in on your feelings.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that. The vulnerability of it.
Yes.
We dive into our vulnerability.
Right.
and we use it it's our secret sauce.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
we're able to say, "Hey, I own that."
Hmm.
And if you can own that and then not be so anxious,
Right.
then you get over that, stage fright.
Well, absolutely. And the audience they do see that vulnerability and see it as authenticity. So they will love you even more. They will respect you even more, and they'll relate to you even more because they are feeling vulnerable. That's why they're listening to you.
Yeah, because what you want to do is you want to make like the bookers, right?
Hmm.
You want to make them think like this is somebody I have to have because this is gonna really like make my event. So
Bingo.
if you become like the hot commodity, the hot act, that everybody wants you playing, it wants to put you on stage.
Yeah. Well, it's true, and the main component there is actually transformation. They every event coordinator, first of all, their reputation is on the line. So there's a lot of risk for them. That's why they sift, 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 sift. That's why we prepare our people so well. But
Mhm.
also, they need ROI. If they're going to pay you, 5,000, 10,000, 15, 20, 30, $50,000
Yeah,
an
pack the
hour
room,
to
pack the
speak,
room.
yeah, then they need return on investment. Their audience needs to be transformed through your talk to a way that gets that organization more than they paid you to come there and speak.
Is that in that they'll want you to come back a bunch of times on other tours or other venues that when they see that return on investment space is not just that
Yeah.
one speech, but it becomes like a series of events or
It can become many things. For one thing, every single person in that audience could hire you for their company, for their organization, for somebody else that they know. So
Mhm.
that's a big part of it is getting the referrals out of that audience. But sure, also other speeches, but also, wow, we love the transformation they offered. They need to come back and give us a seminar. Now, half day
Mhm.
seminar, suddenly you're multiplying your fee because
Yeah.
you're working directly with them, or they need to train our board of directors, those sorts of things. And that's really the goal. Again, is to everything notches up to the next level, notches up to the next level.
That goes from like those seminars to the retreats
You betcha.
to like the book you said, like it all becomes like a full package. Like it's like with merch with musicians. Like
Yeah,
we got our
yeah,
t-shirt, right? We got our posters, we got our, buttons. And so
yeah.
we had to translate that. We got people to go get the DVD, get the
Hmm.
vinyl. So we have all this stuff that's like related. Like if we hook you in, you're gonna go through all that merch. You're gonna go to
Absolutely.
all the shows.
Yeah, yeah, and get the workbook and the companion book, and yeah, and everything else that can go with it. Now,
Audiobook,
yeah, absolutely, yeah. Now, I do want to bring back, I want to make sure this reality because again, I'm a very upfront person. It's hard, okay? It's hard to break into there, and if you're trying to figure it out by yourself, it's pretty much impossible. That's
Mhm.
why, just like any athlete, just like most musicians that are trying to really make it big, you got to have a good coach, somebody who's been there, somebody who's done that, not somebody who promises. I've wasted tens of thousands of dollars myself on people that said they were experts and gave me all these promises and didn't know what they were doing at all. So
It's
that's
hard
why,
to yeah, it's hard to weed through that because there's so many things out there like, "Oh, take the top 10 things, this seminar, spend this couple
oh,
grand here, couple grand there,"
yeah,
and they're always talking about it like, they've got the secret to success.
yeah,
You really wanna say, "Well, where's the ROI?" Like you said,
right,
"Where's the return on investment?" Like, I wanna know that if I go with this coach,
right.
they're actually gonna get me in enough condition so I can play on the A team, you know?
Right, and that they've played on the A team themselves. I paid probably about 10K, I think it was, for a very popular TEDx program. Very popular. I can't name names because I get in legal trouble if I do that. But it's very popular out there. Did I mention that? And so I paid them the money, and I got in there. Okay, I've got coaches going to help me out. They're going to help me out. And it turned out not a single one of those coaches had actually delivered a TEDx talk themselves.
Mm.
And like, oh, I just spent $10,000 to learn from somebody who has no real idea what they're talking about, just a bunch of theory. So when I
Yeah.
came out with my program, I promised myself, because I don't have to do this, I promised myself, if I do this, it will be the single best program in existence, or I'm not doing it. Because
Yeah.
I will not rip people off. That doesn't go by my life's mission statement to help as many people as I can before I die.
Well, I think it's also like trying to make sure things are clear, clearly defined. Because a lot of people go into theory. It's like
Mm-hmm.
when you go to Berkeley,
Mm-hmm.
you have a lot of Berkeley professors who never sold a record, right? So it's
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
would I rather talk to a producer that produced like a Pink Floyd record,
Right.
or talk to the professor that thinks he knows better than the guy who actually produced Dark Side of the Moon?
Right. Right.
I'd rather probably intern with the recording engineer on Dark Side of the Moon. I would probably find that more valuable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Absolutely. Well said. Well said.
It's good, you know, he actually did it. You can see he actually did it. He did the work.
Yeah. Yeah. He's been in there. He's rolled up his sleeves. He's got the cuts and the bruises. He's been there. He's done that, and he knows how it feels to go through the valley and
Yeah.
to come out the other side, to climb that mountain himself through his own blood, sweat, and tears, not from hearing the stories of others.
But when you get to like the idea of clarity in leadership, and because a lot of times if you've been in corporate America and you get these project managers, they'll set up these meetings to like clarify their goal,
Hmm.
and after 5 meetings, they still haven't clarified the goal.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's absolutely true. And all too often, when they do finally clarify their goal, it was their goal, not everybody else's goal. You
Yeah,
got
not
no,
the enterprise goal.
not the enterprise goal. Yeah, you've got no buy-in. I've seen that so many times in leadership, and I've been, very blessed in the business world. I was an officer in the United States Air Force, et cetera. And I saw all too often people would come up with this goal. Here's the way we're going to do it. Here's what we're going to do. Rah, 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 rah. And everybody else is going, yeah, that's great. Yay. But I don't buy off on it. It wasn't my goal. And
Yeah.
son of a gun, it doesn't happen.
Yeah, if you don't get buy-in, if it's all top down,
Bingo.
like it's kind of like when I was in Japan. I lived in Japan for a couple of years, and in Japan, like the guys on the floor putting together stuff from the assembly line,
Hmm.
they can feed stuff back to the engineer, and the engineer will listen.
There you go.
And some organizations in some countries, like that doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
Because well, I'm the engineer. I
Yeah.
was like, well, if the guy putting it together says he thinks there is a better idea, these guys will actually listen to the better idea.
Yeah.
So if you don't let stuff come up from the people who are actually doing the work, right, and you don't want to listen to them at all, then there's like they don't have a lot of buy-in to what you're doing. They're just treating it 9 to 5,
Yeah.
and if somebody gives them a better deal, they're out the door. Versus
Absolutely.
like a startup where everybody's there and everybody's dedicated and they'll put in 120% because
Yeah.
they all feel they're gonna get something out of it. But if you make it so that everybody in the pyramid, the people at the bottom, don't really feel they're getting that much out of it, well, you're not gonna get a lot out of that meeting.
Well, that's it. And you said better deal, and better deal doesn't have to be. And we're talking about a whole different subject here, which is great. We can do that, but it doesn't have to be a higher salary. It can be they listen to me.
Yeah.
My voice matters. I mean something. I can make a difference. And even more than the paycheck, I mean, everybody needs the paycheck, but that can make a bigger difference to most employees, if we want to start going into business here, than that paycheck ever will. That's how you really poach people from other organizations. Not, I'll pay you more money, but rather, you're going to make a difference here. You're
Right,
on
it's like
board for the
peace of
project.
mind and quality of life. Like if
Yeah.
you're under stress,
Yeah.
you might be under stress because nobody really appreciates you.
Absolutely.
Right. And so
Yeah.
if you go to an organization that appreciates you, you might not significantly make that much more money, but your peace of mind in terms of
Yeah.
you don't have restless nights, you can sleep,
Yeah.
right? That you actually aren't like getting all high anxiety all the time
Right.
because you feel like that you're not under the 8 ball, that you're
Yeah.
actually contributing and you can see you're contributing and you're not like looking for the hammer,
Yeah.
and then that like that's worth a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And there's been, I don't even know the percentages, I've seen them, but people that would rather have somebody listening to them, their ideas mean something to make a difference, than more money. They will move to a different organization that will pay them less if they feel they have more of an impact.
Yeah, just more ownership. If you actually give
Absolutely.
people ownership,
Yeah.
like you let
Yeah.
you allow them to be responsible. You don't treat them like children and say, well, they got to be micromanaged. They got to be looked at like, oh, are they really at their desk?
Right. 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 Yeah.
like, like, did they get the work done?
Yeah.
Or
This
did they not get the work done?
this sounds like a speaking topic to me. Sounds pretty good.
But yeah, I think it's interesting that you're in this space where you're operating like a coach, a mentor. You're trying to get people to be their best self, which is like the goal of any producer, right?
Sure.
Or goal
Sure.
of anybody that's like, got like if you're a mentor relationship, like
Sure.
you're taking kids out of college into an organization, you're trying to get them up to speed so they can get to the boardroom. Like you get
Well,
in management, like are you gonna tear them down or are you gonna build them up?
right. Well, and it's, it comes from, again, being there, from being that person just, crying in the wind where I thought I had a great idea, but nobody was listening to it. I couldn't get on those stages. So I've been there. I felt the heartache, and I
Mhm.
felt the pain. And I've watched people that I know didn't have as good ideas as mine. I mean, when my book, The Oxcart Technique, and I've got the next iteration just came out, Never Miss a Goal. But when that idea finally came out, it was, it hit again, number one Wall Street Journal and lots of other charts. And it was named the biggest advancement in the science of goal setting in recent history by one of the top minds in science in the world, and endorsed by a lot of huge names. Where was all of that when I was screaming in the wind? When nobody would listen to me. So that's why I want to go back now to find those people who have those ideas. Now, my program's not cheap. I'm not going to say it is because
Mhm.
I can only talk to so many people at a time to really
Yeah.
make an effect in their lives. So, but I'm always upfront on that. Whenever somebody goes to my website, the price is on there. There's no guessing. But I want to be able to go in there and take that person's idea or ideas, narrow
Mhm.
it down to, okay, dude, those are all great. I get it. As creatives, we got all sorts of ideas, different angles we could go. Let's narrow it down to, first of all, what are your goals? And then, bam, what's actually going to work? What's going to get you booked? What's going to get you paid? What's going to get out there? That's all I wanted when I was trying to figure this out, where I wasted tens of thousands of dollars just for somebody to give me that one
Well, sure.
answer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's really interesting because we live in a world where, like, talk about algorithms and people just kind of cut and paste,
Yeah.
kind of cut and paste economy, algorithm economy. If I can replicate what that algorithm is getting a billion views,
Mm-hmm.
right? Doesn't have to be a new idea. It just has to be in that train on that. And so I've always been the kind of person like I rather get the idea that maybe it's not going to kick that right off the bat,
Mm-hmm.
but really find something that's uniquely speaking something that I haven't heard. Like why do I want to just keep on seeing the same cat video?
Right.
Like, but do I really need to see? I mean, it gets a lot of views.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like that's cool, but what does it mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And you really hit on something big, because one of the things that we do with somebody's message, and especially when we're working on getting them booked for a TEDx talk, is it's got to be countercultural. It's got to be, this is what everybody says, this is what really works, because that's what gets people's attention. They've heard everything else, so let's hear something I haven't heard before.
Yeah, you're actually trying to going against the grain on some of the social media is like there is like the disruptor aspect of things, the
Absolutely.
kind of things that this go and be obnoxious to get views.
Right,
Right.
right.
There's that strategy, or there is actually have something to say.
Yeah, yeah. And you don't want to be a thought follower. You want to be a thought leader. You've got to have something new, or there's 100,000 other people trying to say the exact same thing, and you're just shouting in the wind again. And that's not
Mhm.
what we want to do.
'Cause you're building that whole program. So you have this world-class speaker program. Is that what it's called, or the Visionary
Yeah,
Speaker Network?
yeah, yeah. The training program itself is a world class speaker program, and that's at the stageadvantage.com. And the Visionary Speaker Network, we're just building out with some of our top people. I mean, we've got for instance, Larry Namer, the billionaire founder of E-Entertainment TV.
Mm,
I was working with him and got him booked a TEDx talk that he's really excited about.
that's a
Um,
good your name check there.
yeah. He's actually a great guy, great guy. Hap Klopp, the founder of the North Face, is
Mm,
going to be part of the Visionary Speaker Network. Another great guy. But you know, for speakers, it's pretty good, and it's my students that'll be able to be on this platform to have your face and your name sitting next to people like this.
yeah, that's a big lift.
It,
That's different from these theoretical guys.
yeah, that's an absolute fact right there. And if I ever decide to get my back issues taken care of and get back out on the road again, you know, I'll have my smiling picture up there as well. And you know, that's not bad either. So I
Well,
mean, it really is about setting people up for success. You know?
I'll point out the QR code that's up there right now is right links to your the stageadvantage.com. So everybody wants to, it's been up for a while, but if you didn't know what it was, the QR code actually is the website. So you know that's how people actually book with you or connect with you.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the best thing because again, it's going to tell. I like telling everything up front. You know, I'm not one of those. Let's just book a call so I can sell you. Not my ball game. Not what I want to do. Not what I have to do. So it gives you all the information of what's going on in the program, and again, it gives you the price. And if you're interested in what's going on there, it gives you a link to where you can apply to get on my schedule. Again, I don't talk to everybody, but if you've got a great idea and are ready to take the action, then I definitely want to talk to you. But again, everything up front so you can see for yourself before you talk to anybody. So nobody wastes your time and your energy either.
Now, what are some key lessons learned that you've had over the years that you would convey to the audience, like maybe a key lesson learned from your experience?
Yeah, absolutely. The biggest one, and you've heard it too many times, but never give up. But it's true. But along with that, don't just keep doing the same thing that doesn't work, but learn what didn't work before, reapply, and then go out there and do it again, and then reapply and do it again. Too many people think that if you get turned down for the gig, for the speaking event, for whatever, I failed.
Hmm.
Absolutely not. But let's say you want to call it failure. The path to success is paved with the stones of failure.
Yeah.
Not a single person who's ever succeeded at anything of significance in this world did it without failing. So they failed and failed and failed and failed. So if you are failing and failing and failing and failing, I don't want you to go, oh man, this sucks. I'm failing. I must be a failure. No, I want you to go, I'm failing and failing and failing. I'm on the path to success, baby. We got this. And
Well,
keep on going down the path.
when IT, we call it failing upward.
There you go. Yeah,
Yeah, because
absolutely.
like everything's like well, we do everything in agile, so iterative development.
Right,
The
right.
reason your cell phone app every day is getting a new version is because we didn't know everything yesterday.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
so our old version, you could say was a failure. No, it's what we knew yesterday. The
yeah,
new version is what we know today.
yeah.
And so we continually live, we find the bugs and we
Hmm.
learn from the bugs. Right. So
Yeah,
that's how, like, if you think about the IT process in today's world, it is that failing upward. Like
yeah,
you have to break some eggs to figure out what's going to work. Right.
absolutely.
That's how it works. It's like a musician, like I said, you got 100 demos.
Yeah,
Do 100 demos to find out demo number 4 was the one you should have used. But you
right,
had to get to 100 to realize that.
right.
So that it's not a failure. It's actually the process you needed to figure it out.
Absolutely. It doesn't feel good. I'll be the first one to admit it doesn't feel good. I'd rather have somebody, you know, have a success. But this is the way it is. So understand that and just keep on going, man. What don't and don't think too small. You know, if I were, I mean, I was raised in literally the poorest city in the entire United States of America, a Texas-Mexico border town by the name of McAllen. I was surrounded by
Mhm.
gangs and drugs. Wrong end of an assault rifle in junior high in my back alley. Father killed when I was in high school and told I'd never grow up to be anything. If I would have stayed with that narrative in my head, they would have been right.
Mhm.
You create your own narrative. Don't dream small. Dream big, but be ready for the blood, sweat, and tears to make it happen, baby.
Yeah, I think that's super important. I will just close with a question I ask people: what are three things that folks should know about you?
um, we talked about a bunch of them already. And three things, especially that they wouldn't think they would, is I am an introvert. Um, I love going out in the wilderness all by myself, all around the world in some of the harshest conditions. My wife is convinced that I'm happiest when I'm close to death. I'm just not afraid of it. I've got my own belief system, and so I really don't have that fear gene of that. But I think it's the biggest thing that I'd love for people to understand when they hear, number one best-selling author, number two new TEDx talk in the world, and all these other accolades. I'm a person. I'm not that cool, and I'm smart enough to know that I'm not that cool. Um, I'm just a regular person who works really hard and learns and keeps on moving forward. And I have probably been beaten down more times than the average 12 people ever will in their lives.
Mhm.
And that's part of it. And it's those things. Nobody wants to learn from a silver spoon imposter who's never been through the trials and tribulations. The people they want to hear from are the ones who have the blood, sweat, and tears, the agony that those challenges can bring. If you're that person, fantastic. You can help other people. Now go out there and do it.
Well, I want to thank you for being here today. Again, we have the QR code that maps to thestagedadvantage.com. Please scan that. You will be able to click on it. We've been live on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Kick. We will be available on all the major podcast platforms by the end of the day tomorrow. And I want to thank you for being a guest on the Family Electric Ghost podcast.
Well, Phantom, thanks again for everything you're doing. You keep it real, you keep it true, and you're helping a lot of people. And I can't tell you how much I appreciate you.
Thank you. You're doing the same thing. So thank you.
You got it, buddy.